Hello, everyone. My name is Renee Dominguez, and I'm here with Robin Lake, both of us from the Family Service Center. And we are really happy to be here to deliver the final installment of our Coping During COVID webinar series. We are really honored to have been able to have the opportunity to do this webinar for the Village of Northbrook and in partnership with the Village of Northbrook. Today, we're going to wrap up the series by really talking about focusing on ourselves and taking care of ourselves in the midst of this pandemic in order to be the best version of ourselves and also be able to show up for others during this really tricky time. So let's grab your notebook or whatever way you're keeping track of your learning, and we'll go ahead and get started on this series, on this final installment of the series. I'm going to review these slides here, review the weeks that we have done really quickly, just to remind you some of the learning that's taken place thus far. We talked about the cognitive triangle. We've talked about combating unhelpful thinking and thinking errors. We dug into worry pretty intensely. We talked about boundaries and ways in which we could use self-talk to support healthy coping. We talked about the importance of giving gratitude and experiencing gratitude, expressing gratitude. Robin did a great job of talking about our stress response system, how important it is, but how it can go awry during times like COVID. We talked about the importance of validation. And then Robin also did a two-part series on mindfulness and really using mindfulness to support healthy coping during COVID. And so today we're going to shift and Robin's going to deliver this.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about self-care and putting on your own oxygen mask first. That's why we have that little oxygen mask from the plane as our kind of theme on the first slide every time. Self-care is a big term. It inspires a lot of strong reactions. For me, sometimes it makes me confused, sometimes excited, but in general, it just means taking responsibility for our well-being in the important areas of our life. It brings to mind efforts designed to protect, to soothe, to nourish, and maintain our health. And while it seems simple to put on your own oxygen mask first, or remember to recharge your battery, prioritizing our own health and wellness is not a simple thing. It does not happen without effort and planning, and many times we need help to make the time. It is a prevention and maintenance program rather than a one-time event. And it is unique to you. So whatever recharges your physical, mental, and spiritual battery is self-care, and it is important. So let's talk about our body. Self-care with respect to our body is incredibly important. If we are hungry, tired, if we haven't had any exercise or outlets for movement, we tend to get grumpy. So really prioritizing getting enough sleep, enough nutrition, food and fluids, exercise, going to the doctor when we need to go to the doctor, taking our medications if we are prescribed them. And then the care for our autonomic nervous system refers back to that stress response system. Making sure that we are taking slow, deep breaths periodically throughout the day just kind of keeps us from going into sympathetic nervous system. This really affects our physical and mental health. And so we have to start with the body. And now we're going to move to the mind and spirit. And this, we're going to use the term fill your bucket. So filling your bucket is super important. We can't give from an empty bucket. If you want to give love and patience to someone, but you feel super empty and depleted, it's going to be hard. So anything that fills you up, lifts you up, supports your well-being, or gives you joy, things that make you feel grounded, fulfilled, or make you smile. This, again, it's unique to you. It's a one size fits you. And so the idea is that there's lots of ways, but we're going to go through them and you're going to choose which one sounds good to you. So you can fill your bucket with connection. Connection is an obvious and time researched way social support is incredibly important in mental health. So there's connection and there's also love. One of the best ways to bring a smile to your face is to imagine a being that is easy to love, as we talked about in the loving kindness meditation, can be a dog, a cat, a child who's not having a tantrum, a spouse who is not annoying you. I mean, so love is incredibly important, and bring to mind someone who's easy to love and you will smile. We also know the world is bigger than COVID, and thinking about things outside of COVID really helps. What changes are you hoping to keep? What song lyrics are resonating with you? Who's a person who makes your life better? Can you reach out to them? What have you learned about yourself? What are you grateful for? Another way to fill your bucket is to bring in humor and laughter. Honestly, I'm one of the last people to discover this, but the internet is hilarious. It's truly hilarious. And I want to give a plug to the honest trailers. I love movies, and watching those is really, really fun. And it's also kind of inspiring, you know, because you have to be very clever to make those things. So you can turn to all of those different fill your buckets. And then as you're pausing and reflecting, well, how are you? You know, that's a tough question. It's not a simple, easy question to answer. We all want to start with, yeah, I'm fine. But the truth is, according to the research, we are struggling. We are kind of in this weird space with our mood and our health. And so, how are you is one of the more important questions to ask when you're thinking about self-care. What fills your bucket? And what comes to mind when you hear self-care?
And so maybe thinking about a plan of action moving forward, and taking the time to think about, in advance, how can you take care of yourself this week? What are the things that you can do to fill your bucket? I want to make a note here. Robin had that great slide about the world outside of COVID and the questions you can ask yourself about COVID. And I was thinking about, and I kind of jumped in and interrupted for a second. Those are questions that are great to take when you talk with friends or you have a Zoom call for a conversation that's outside of COVID. Can you fill your bucket that way in connection with others outside of COVID? Who can help you make time to get enough sleep? And what can you do to get enough sleep? And really thinking through, how do I want to take care of myself this week? So we want to encourage you to commit to a plan of action and do your best to stick to it. That is really the end of our series of coping during COVID. We are really honored to have been part of this, and we hope that you have learned and that this has been helpful for you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.